session today is conducted by a professional speaker who has over 6,000 hours on stage, all paid. To me, he is my sifu, although I am not qualified to be his student yet. All the while, when I have any problem on my speech, so I will go and find him and ask for his consultation. And he will give me a lot of good idea, funny idea, and weird idea, and help me to win my history humoristic champion last year. So today, he is prepared to reveal some of the biggest lessons he learned from 20 years of public speaking. This is advanced public speaking, the 3 bigger mistakes people make when giving an evaluation, and the ingredients necessary to deliver the best evaluation every single time. Please welcome a man who can double or triple the effectiveness of your evaluation today, Mr. Mervin Sinaga.
Thank you, that was a lovely welcome. I wrote it myself. It's nice to be back with familiar faces. I love this room too. It's a good room to present. Today, we'll do how to avoid what? The 3 biggest mistakes evaluators make. How to avoid the 3 biggest mistakes evaluators make. So there are 2 things I need to do before I tell you how to avoid the 3 biggest mistakes. Number 1, we need to define what we mean by evaluation. And number 2, you need to know what the 3 biggest mistakes are so that you can avoid them. Then we'll talk about avoiding them, okay? All right, everyone, hands up. Hands up, hands up. Don't put your hand down until you qualify, okay? I'm going to qualify you. Huh? All right, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being Superman, okay? 1 being 1 more than 0. How many of you feel you can evaluate on a level at least 1? Right? Keep your hand up if it's at least 1. 2 or more. 3 or more. Your evaluation skill, your confidence in evaluation, 4 or more. Okay, so we start to lose some people. 5 or more. On a scale of 1 to 10, 5 or more. All right, we still got some. 6 or more. We lost a few more. 7 or more. Okay, 8 or more. So we have 1 person standing still, is it? 8 or more. What, 8.1 is it? Okay, very nice. Well, let's give Joe a hand. So I'll sit down and Joe will take over the workshop. Okay, so I needed to see where you are with your evaluation. And one of the things that every speaker must do before they speak or while they're speaking, right, is to assess their audience. To assess the audience. What's another word for assess? Evaluate. We evaluate all the time. All the time. Whether we know it or not. We even judge our friends. Right? We evaluate our friends just that we don't fill out the formula. It's really natural, you know. It's really natural. When we evaluate our friends, we call it judge. You know, we judge them. It's really natural. So today, I'm going to start on the basis that we all can do it because it's what? Natural. It's what? It's natural. It's natural to judge, it's natural to evaluate, it's natural to assess. I'm going to start on that basis that you all have the innate skill, right? The naturally given skill to do it. But I'm going to help you with forming it so that it becomes something useful to the speaker. You all follow me so far? Yes. Would you like to be able to formulate that natural judgment so that it's useful for your speaker? Yes. Yes, you'd like to do that. Okay. Let's talk about what evaluation means. Tell me, give me a word or two that means evaluation to you. What does an evaluator seek to do? Provide feedback. There's the big word, feedback. Feedback's a great word. Positive and negative, right? Yeah, and everything in between. Feedback, yes. You talked about self-reflection. That's feedback. The mirror, that's feedback. The mirror is the kind of feedback that shows you every detail if you're willing to look for it, right? If you're willing to look for it. So as a speaker often can't see the flaws that he needs to correct, right? They can't see it themselves. So they need the evaluator to give that feedback. It's a hugely important part. And we will see in a moment how that is one of the biggest failures in most evaluations, the feedback. Okay, what else does the evaluator do?
Motivation.
Okay, so this is a dimension that is huge. What is the point of leaving a speaker demotivated, right? Why would you want to leave a speaker demotivated? You'd want to leave a speaker motivated. Given the choice, would you want to leave the speaker motivated or demotivated? Motivated. Encouraged, yes? Yes, not discouraged. And as we'll see in a moment, this plays really, really big in the mistakes. So we've got two fantastic components so far, dimensions. And frankly, even if we stop at these two dimensions, we probably will cover maybe 80% or more of the stuff, right? We've got the feedback and we've got the motivation. Okay. An evaluator must be able to make observations. An evaluator must be able to make what? Observations. If you can't observe the error, or you can't observe, if you can't spot it, how are you going to comment on it, right? You must be able to spot it. So the question always comes to me, what to look for, right? What to look for. When people ask, how do I evaluate? Actually, what they're asking for the most part is, what do I look for? How many of you are very confident you know what to look for? You look for how the person uses the stage, right? You look for the eye contact. You look for the gestures or lack of gestures. You look for maybe the way the voice is used, the projection maybe. How loud is it? Or how fast or slow it is. Yes, there are many things to look for. And what I've just mentioned are only the technical side of public speaking. There are other sides, not just the technical side. I'm not a fan of the technical side. Frankly, if you say eye contact is important, well, that means a blind person cannot give a speech. And if you say gestures are important or using the stage is important, that means a paraplegic cannot give a speech. But you know what? You go on YouTube, you see the blind and the paraplegics give speeches, you'll change your life, They're superb speeches. Superb. And yet, we go on about technicalities. So I'm not a fan of technicalities. Frankly, as long as you can communicate, I'm in. As long as you can persuade, as long as you can communicate, as long as I sense you have that desire too, I'm in. I don't care if the grammar is backwards. In fact, English grammar is backwards if you compare it to other languages, right? Yeah, compared to most other languages, English grammar is backwards. So frankly, I don't care. I know grammar can get in the way, and I know some of you are worried about this. It can get in the way. Yes, of course it can get in the way. But I think there are other things that get in the way more than grammar. Much more. And we'll talk about some of those things. We'll talk about some of those fears, okay? All right. Definition of evaluation. I'm going to offer it to you. Thank you for the dimension here and the dimension there. These are the two dimensions that are important, plus what Joe said. The two big dimensions for evaluation, it goes like this. And a good evaluation depends on the quality of your observation, okay? The quality of your observation. Those of you who are into tech, the resolution of the picture, okay? The resolution of the picture. The quality of your observation, first part. This is the first part. There are two parts. First part. Depends on the quality of your observation. And, here's the second part. Your ability to do something with it. I'll tell you what it is. Your ability to do something with the observation. The word is to articulate it. Your ability to articulate the observation. You all follow me so far? Okay? The quality of your observation and your ability to articulate it. That is the basic definition. It doesn't include things like motivation, but motivation is hugely important. It is not necessary actually, but it's hugely important, I think, in most settings. In most settings, motivation is important, but it's not strictly necessary. Have you ever watched any movies, or maybe you have a mom or dad that will scold you, and then you are very motivated to do something, to change something in your life, like, make your bed. Okay, make your bed. So it's not always that we need the positive motivation in order to do something. It's not always, all right? But I think in the context of what we're discussing here, it's useful to know how to be encouraging. Would you agree with that? Do you want to know how to encourage people even after you've criticized them? Yes. Yeah. It's a nice skill, huh? Keep calm and then patch it up, Stab the wound, move the knife around, and then go to patch it up. Yeah. No, it's good. That's what the doctors do. That's what you go to the hospital for them to open you up and sew you up again. And then in time, you will be better. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's like that. So as an evaluator, bring the scalpel. And the sutures as well, the thread. Okay, so we have a definition now. You all on board with the definition? We're okay with the definition? Yeah. Okay, very good. Let's talk about the 3 biggest mistakes. By the way, there are hundreds of mistakes that evaluators make. We talk about 3 today. And hopefully we'll have a little bit of time to talk about how to avoid them. Okay, I'm going to ask you, have you ever made a mistake as an evaluator? You think maybe what's the nature of your mistake? You gave the wrong advice, you think? Possibly. Or your advice was a bit shallow, maybe. How many of you were maybe afraid to say what you really saw? Hey, really, no, some speeches are boring, okay. But do we come up here and say, hey, your speech boring? Most of the time we don't say it because of fear. Fear of what, actually? Why are you afraid to tell someone the truth about their speech?
Relationship.
Yeah. Fear of losing the relationship. What other fear might there be?
Fear of hurting the speaker.
Oh, fear of hurting the speaker, yeah. Fear of humiliation. Yeah. Yeah, if the speaker is humiliated, they might get left out of the group, right? Emotionally, left out of the group. Fear of embarrassing the speaker. Yeah, we don't want to do these things to the speaker. We don't want to. So what do we do instead?
We sugarcoat it.
Yeah, we make it sweet and syrupy. Huh?
Yeah.
Not only that, we make it sweet and syrupy as well as elevated. Angkat. Huh? Elevate.
Awesome speech.
Yes. Good job, I enjoyed your speech. And then you criticize them. Oh, your eye contact so lousy one. Huh? And at the end, it's an awesome speech. But in the middle, eye contact lousy lah. Don't know how to use the stage lah. Pauses non-existent lah. So there's an incongruency when that happens. In other words, what you say and what happened doesn't match. You know, what you say at one part and the other part, you praise so high and then you stab so low, it doesn't match. This is a problem, okay? Okay, so the biggest mistakes are these. Number 1, the fear of telling the... Well, you all know the answer. Then I come up here for what? The fear of telling the truth. Anyone disagree so far? The fear of telling the truth. In fact, the quality of your observation and your ability to articulate means your job is to, as much as you can, to tell the... Yeah. So it is the only job of the evaluator to tell the truth. And yet, it is the biggest fear Interesting how the only job you have is the one that you're afraid of. When you say yes to being an evaluator, by right, it should mean I'm prepared to tell you what your speech was really like, so that you can improve. You know, that in that sense, I'm functional, I'm helpful. It should be that way. But often it is or isn't. Often it is not that way. Often we get sugar-coated responses. We get overly elevated assessments. We get all kinds of things which the truth is here, but we're stabbing around here. Everything but the truth. We'll say everything around here, but not the truth itself. Anyone find themselves in this, emotionally anyway, in this position? When, you know, you found yourself in that position? Wow, dilemma. You talk about dilemmas, this is the dilemma. This is the human dilemma. To tell the truth. It's the human dilemma. So since you all are not human, it's okay lah. Those masters are asked not to be human, evaluators are not human. It's the human dilemma. An actual human will struggle with this. Okay? Actual humans will struggle with it. Non-humans, no problem. In fact, that's the cure. Actual humans worry about, you know, social acceptance of the relationship. Right? They worry about embarrassing others. Actually, they worry about embarrassing themselves. We worry about hurting others. Actually, they worry about being hurt themselves. We worry about these things. The fear of telling the truth is a big, big topic, huge topic, and it's not a thing I can solve for you. Really, I come up here with whatever experience I have. I cannot solve this problem for you. This one is a decision, and it's a personal decision, professional and personal, whether to tell the truth or not. It's a decision. I cannot solve this problem for you, really, but I'm telling you that the problem exists, just in case you didn't know, but you all knew. Okay, you guys follow me so far? You know that I really cannot solve this for you. This one is your personal decision. And your personal decision, amazingly, I would imagine would lead to personal growth. Or, depending on what decision you make, will lead to stagnation. You know stagnation? Yes. Stagnant water, never move on. This one, don't drink. Moving water, you have a much better chance of surviving. Stagnant water, don't drink. Okay? Yes. Fear of telling the truth. Wow, big one. Okay. The second biggest one. So we mentioned the truth already. We've also mentioned the second one. And the second one is what I call fake praise. The sugarcoating. You know, the lifting up. Good job. Everything is good. Hey, how come in Toastmasters, every evaluation classifies the speech as an excellent speech and as a good job. Every speech, you know. You know how many thousands of speeches there are in Toastmasters around the world? Every speech is excellent and good job. That is one hell of a record, no? And yet when you go into the real world, is every speech excellent and good job? Are some speeches boring? But in Toastmasters, excellent and good job. All no. Amazing, huh? Is there something wrong here? Some people are not telling the truth. Some people are not telling the truth. I've been there. If I hadn't been there, I'm not qualified to even mention this to you. No, I've been there. Afraid to tell the truth. So substitute the truth with fake praise. Wow, would you like to know some of the language that can be used instead of fake praise to accurately but encourage at the same time? To accurately describe but also to encourage? Would that be useful?
Yes.
Okay, we'll try and get into that as well. Fake praise. There's a big word which I'm hesitant to use now, but I'll use it, and maybe it can be word of the day one day now. It's called platitude. Hands up if you have heard of the word platitude. It's not platypus. Platitude. So it's not a word that we often hear, right? But I tell you, I hear platitudes all the time. Not the word platitude. I hear what platitude describes all the time. Have you heard of the word cliche? Yes, okay, so cliche we know. Cliche are, short sayings that are basically copy and paste so many times that it loses its meaning. Okay? And when you say to someone, when you use a cliche to someone, psychologically, do you know what that means? Even if it's like good advice, drink more water. Do you know what that means? It means you don't care for the other person. That's what it means. Even though you think it means you care. When you say to someone, drink more water, or even if you say, I care for you, it means what? No. It means they do not care for you. They do not. If they did, why do they need to say it? Any of you told your customers, oh, we care, as a company, we care for you. Any of you told your customers that? Don't know. Stop this practice. In the letter that you write, we are writing, I always get these letters from Tanaga or whatever. We are writing to you because we care for you. Tanaga does not know who I am. I'm a number to them. But they say they care for me. I'm not stupid enough to believe it, okay? Right? You know what I'm saying? If someone actually cares, you will know it by the things they say, not because they declare that they care. By the things they say and the things they do. You know what I mean? By their fruits, you will know. By what they produce, you will know. Not by what they, I care for you. So I'm going to tell you. When someone says, I care for you, so I'm going to tell you this, it means they're going to tikam bite now. They're going to really stab you nicely. It's going to hurt. That's what it means. Okay, so fake praise, platitudes. Platitudes are like cliches, except platitudes are cliches that fly over the moon. Soaring, let's fly together in Toastmasters. We hear these things. These are platitudes. There's no reality to it. It is meant to inspire, to motivate. But in the end, let's fly together and similar types of sayings have very little actual meaning. Because for those of you who have been year after year in Toastmasters, you have never flown before, no? Except AirAsia now. But Toastmasters, no. In fact, you may not even sense your progress and development. Some of you may have stagnated. Stagnation possible even though you come every meeting? Of course it's possible. Because growth is a choice. Huh? Growth is not a result of a good speaker or a good edu session. Growth is a choice. Not my choice, not your choice. Huh? I mean, I have to do my own choosing for my own growth, right? Yeah, choice. So avoid platitudes, avoid fake praise. No, and I'll talk about the kind of language you can use so that you can avoid this. Would that be useful?
Yes.
Okay, very nice. The third one that we'll toss around today is bad advice. Just outright bad advice. Now, bad advice could be I'm not talking about evil advice. No one intends to give evil advice now. But there is a lot of bad advice. Actually, do you agree that there is bad advice given by evaluators from time to time? More than from time to time, huh? Yeah. Whenever I attend a meeting, I tend to hear bad advice. Of course, I've had 20 years of high pressure situations on stage, so maybe I know things that that most people don't know. But still, I think there are some things that are inexcusable. For example, the eye contact, right? If eye contact is so important, like I said earlier, that means blind people cannot give speeches, right? Etc., etc., etc. Gestures. So all of the technicalities, frankly, if someone asks you to correct the technicality, for the most part, it's bad advice. Or say dubious advice. Maybe advice given because nothing else to talk about. Yeah? So just have to say something. Alright? I'm not saying that the technicalities are bad, or that you shouldn't correct them. Yes, if you've got okay, if you're always, adjusting your glasses, or if you've always got some kind of weird smile, you do sometimes need, your friend to tell you that that's going on and that needs changing. Because that might get in the way of the communication. But for the most part, most people do not really have the kind of problems that require the level of technical advice that is given out in every meeting. Wow, now all the evaluators for later like, wow. Cancel the eye contact. I'll try and tell you how to replace that stuff, okay? What else to look for? Okay, so there's sometimes the advice is kind of random as well, you know, it's not really structured nicely, so it's like some here, some here, some here, some here. Sometimes, I can see that, if you're looking in the mirror, you can see flaw here, flaw here, flaw here, flaw here. But actually, when someone is telling you something, communicating with you, it is always nice when they have a certain clarity and possibly some kind of, or you might even call it a theme as to what area you want, that they think you should work on. Because it just helps you understand things better. Not like, 5 random pieces of advice. Random pieces of advice makes you feel like you've been shot 5 bullets, 5 holes, 1 hole enough, now I've got 5 of them. So if you stay with, a particular area, you think, okay, this speaker got a few areas, now you pick one area, and then you comment on this area. There's a few things in this area, and then offline we can talk about other things if you want. You can do that. What's wrong with that? If you really care. If you really care. That's up to you, that's a choice. Care is a choice, You know what is not a choice? Green light, yellow light, red light, that's not a choice, No choice. Okay, so I've got 5 minutes. Very nice. Right, so how to avoid these things. So what's the kind of language? Actually, I'm going to talk about the psychology first. And if we have time, maybe some of the language. But if you understand the human dynamic and the psychological dynamic, I hope that will be what will guide you, in the future, or even today. Okay, so how to avoid this stuff. So let's call the 3 big mistakes the old mindset. The old mindset of afraid to tell the truth. I'll uncut and give false praise just because I'm afraid to tell the truth. And the third thing is random advice, or maybe advice that's not really based in reality. Okay? Let's call that the old mindset. How many of you want the new mindset? Okay, you listen for 5 minutes, you get a new mindset. Is that a fair deal? Okay. New mindset, how to avoid all the other stuff. Imagine that there are 2 parts to how you say something in an evaluation. Okay? Let's imagine there are 2 parts to it. So it's not enough just to say what you observe now, but you also want to do what we have the motivation part. You also want to include that. So now 2 parts. The observation is 1 part, and how you say it now. The second part is the encouragement. Okay? So encouragement, we do the fake praise stuff. Right? I'm going to give you the alternative. And the alternative, in my opinion, is real and useful. Okay. Let's call the 2 parts fear and hope. Fear and hope. You have to deliver both. Most of you deliver only hope, and the hope, don't know, is from where one. Excellent speech. You will be the world champion if you improve this. Really? Fear and hope. Fear is this, the criticism, the observation, the criticism. That's the fear. That's the part that you fear to give, And that's the part also people are afraid to hear. But you know what? That's the most important part. Jamie Oliver, anyone heard of this guy? The chef? Okay, cook, chef, whatever you call him. He went to Italy, into a cafe in Italy, and to learn from the guys who cook the food there. So he cooked a meal for the Italians, and Italians love their food. If their food is British standard, that means it's lower. Italian standard is higher here. He cooked a meal for one night for all the patrons of the restaurant. And they wrote feedback. So, okay, he was going, the head chef took all the feedback and said, okay, Jamie, here's the feedback. Positive, 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 negative. He put the negative one in Jamie's pocket, and the positive ones he threw away. He says, that's the only one you need. It's the only one you need. If I tell you your speech is excellent, will you improve? There's no reason to improve. Or excellent already what? Top of the world already what? If I tell you your speech needs improvement, will that be a bit more interesting? Yes. And hopefully I care enough to not hurt you up. Right? So the negative is the most important part. That's why I call it fear, and that's why I call it criticism. To deliver the criticism. Like I said, I can't solve it for you. You have to choose to do it. Okay? The criticism and the hope. The hope is this. This is the part which I think a lot of evaluators do not know the language of hope. Their language of hope is good job. I watched a movie once. It's about high performance and maintaining high performance year after year after year after year. And the coach of the musical band and how he got the guys to perform and win the competitions every year. And he said this is my favorite quote of all time. He says, the two most dangerous words in the English language, good job. Two most dangerous words, you know. But you hear good job. That is why you have low performance. Because you use the words good job, you think good job, you even think that you are doing good job. This is why you're not at the top. At the top is... So the good job is finished now. If I continue, it's bad job now. Okay, I'll just wrap it up with an example now. So, sorry, with telling you what the hope actually is. The hope is you give a mini vision of the future. A mini vision, don't say you will win the world championship. No. What is, okay, well, the world championship is like 100 levels above that person at the moment. So what is a mini vision instead of world championship 100 levels above? Next level. So you tell them, okay, I think you got to work on You know what? This is not that hard to work on. In fact, if you work on it, if you correct this, you are at the next level already. That criticism, hope, mini vision. Should you do what I have just said, I think you will be at the next level already. You'll be better. You'll be a better speaker for it. So don't make promises like world champion and whatever. Just better speaker. Small improvements on better speaker, next level. This is the language. This is the language that shows you have a grasp on reality, you know. That you are not like, we can fly. No. You have a grasp on reality. And speakers, do you want your evaluator to have a grasp on reality or not? Yes. Not only do you want them to care for you, you want them to actually tell you stuff that's real. I'm going to leave you guys with that. You've been a wonderful audience as always, so TOD, back to you.